craft. And I've only been a police officer here for about 2.5 years, and I've seen a few disturbing incidents in my time. But just seeing the state of the victims and the trauma that they had been subjected to, it was something that was very disturbing. And once again, I hope that they have a speedy and quick recovery from the physical and the emotional trauma that I'm sure that they have sustained. Now, before we open up to any questions, I cannot comment on anything regarding the investigation or anything regarding the suspect. If you have any questions like that, please direct those to Mr. Aaron, and he can see if it's something that we need to talk about it now or something that will be discussed at a later time. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Let Officer Claiborne speak to what he saw as he arrived off the scene, as he was pulling out.
Hello, my name is Officer Philip Claiborne. I asked for the call as I was coming out of the garage and got over there as quick as I could. I turned right onto 5th Avenue South off of Lafayette, and I could see up the hill to the storage unit. I saw the suspect standing outside. Once I got up to Division, there's a concrete planter box that I had to turn right and go around. And to do that, I had to lose visual on the suspect for a few seconds. Once I got around that, turned right back onto 5th Avenue South again. I saw the suspect up by the entrance to the storage unit. He was standing on the sidewalk with his hands in the air and his feet together. I stopped in the street and observed the weapon laying already in the street. Exited my patrol car and gave him commands to get down on the ground. He followed all my commands, got down flat on his face, and I simply walked up and cuffed him without incident. And then I got him up off the ground and was taking him back to my patrol car, and that's when Officer Hill arrived and I directed him inside. I didn't actually go in to see the victims, which is a little tough for me because I wanted to go in and help, and there was probably a solid 30 seconds to a minute before Officer Hill got there that the witnesses were yelling at me to go in and help them, but our training tells us to stay with the suspect because we got to secure him and make sure he doesn't get away. But as far as the rest of the incident, I sat with the suspect and made sure that he would see justice for this incident.
Any of the rest of you have anything you want to add to this before we take questions? Go ahead.
So,
introduce yourself, please.
my name is Officer William Hamblin. I've been an FTO for about 2.5 years. I've been on with Metro for about 7.5 years. Me and my partner, Officer Schaefer, we were, I think, third on the scene. When we arrived, the officers to my left, it is impossible to put into words the scene that we were able to see, that I was able to see, and when I was watching them render aid. Basically, I just handed a tourniquet to them and stayed out of their way. But my hat's off to these officers here for the job that they did, rendering aid to these individuals. I would not have been able to do that alone. And the Central guys, outstanding teamwork. And my hat's off to all 4 of you gentlemen. Thank you.
Okay, questions?
Officer Hill, can you just describe I know you kind of said, you walked in and you were able to, start kind of provide treatment. Can you just describe what was going through your mind seeing that it was?
So once I arrived on the scene, the interior of the crime scene was not immediately viewable from the outside. And when I entered into the garage area, there were multiple witnesses who then, immediately directed me over to my left, which is where the front office was. And the front office doors are transparent, so you can kind of see into it from a distance. And the first thing that came to my mind when I looked through those doors, I just saw the color red was very prominent on the lower sections of the floor. And just from the way that the victims appeared, I could just tell from about 20, 25 feet away that they were going to need quite a bit of medical assistance. Did that answer your question, sir?
Yes. Can you talk to like I guess like the severity of their wounds? Are you able to talk about that and just what kind of state they were in when you
Yes, sir.
found them?
So for the police department, we're trained, even though we're not medical professionals, we do receive some training in the academy in order to better triage what appears to be a more life-threatening and what's less severe and more severe. We have a brevity code to determine what that severity of the injury is, with 1 being the least severe and 4 being the person is deceased from their injuries. As I approached and entered the doorway, it became immediately apparent that we would call it a code 3 injury, as in life-threatening, critical, very severe injuries.
Can you, I know this might sound like an obvious thing, but can you describe the tourniquets and how you were able to use them? Because the release said multiple tourniquets had to be used on them. Can you describe that?
Yes, sir. So the tourniquets that I was issued during my time in the training academy are the soft-T training tourniquets, or excuse me, the soft-T tourniquets. I do recall that there were some other tourniquets from other reputable sources and manufacturers. I believe there's some CAT tourniquets, CAT tourniquets. But when we're trained for our emergency trauma cares, when we identify massive hemorrhaging or bleeding, particularly from arms, legs, we secure tourniquets in order to stop the blood flow before the blood reaches those injuries and exit the body. So myself, I applied a tourniquet to one of Mr. Kraft's legs, and so we're trained to secure the tourniquet as high up on the leg as we can to ensure that no other injuries along the leg surface, are not caught in the tourniquet, so the tourniquet can stop the hemorrhaging from all the subsequent injuries below it when you look at the circulatory system. And so I did one of the legs on Mr. Kraft. I'm not too sure which officer specifically, but I know most of the officers to my left then set upon securing tourniquets to the remainder of his appendages, his other leg, both of his arms, and then we also started to assist the responding medical personnel with a tourniquet application to Mrs. Kraft.
If you could see them today, is there anything you would say to them, knowing that you saved them, saved their lives?
I think we all, as public servants, our desire is to serve and protect our community. I think we all would say we wish we could have gotten there sooner, and in order to prevent some of the trauma that they encountered. I wish we just could have gotten there sooner.
Speaking on that, can you talk about how y'all's training and the rapidity that you're able to get to the scene? If you guys had been 10 seconds later, this would have been a different story.
Yes, and once again, I'm not a medical professional. I can't articulate any kind of discussion on what could have happened or what could not have happened, but we are trained. One of the things that we're taught in the academy is that individuals who suffer major hemorrhaging, especially from in their arteries in their legs, they can potentially succumb to their injuries within a minute or 2 minutes. And so I think that maybe speaks to the resiliency of the victims and just how much they wanted to make it out of that situation. But it could have gone multiple different ways, but I can't comment on the medical aspect of it because I'm not qualified.
I've seen one of the things that we had posted on our web article was about how he did this as an act of to show his upset with COVID-19 and stuff like that. I mean, did it look like he went in there just to completely murder these people, or was it just aggression? Like, did he go for the head, the chest, the legs? I'm
So,
just curious.
while I cannot comment on the intentions of the suspect, I can tell you that from my observations of the victims, they had sustained, I would estimate, dozens of slashing and hacking wounds to themselves. And it did not appear just to be a one-time attack. I believe it was it appears to be sustained based off the injuries that I observed.
Was the victim conscious or unconscious when you arrived on the
Right when I arrived there, both victims appear to be conscious. I could tell from the pallor of their skin that they were very under a very great deal of duress. They appeared to be, while they were conscious, I believe that they were probably on the verge of slipping out of consciousness due to the blood loss that I observed in the area. But yes, sir, they were conscious. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This morning, Chief Anderson received an email from a family member that says, "My in-laws were the ones that were attacked yesterday at the storage facility in Nashville. From all our information gathered, the 6 officers that responded saved Kevin and Leanne Craft's lives. A commendation won't do it justice, but thank you for serving and protecting the people of Nashville. Our family is forever grateful. God bless." Any other questions? Yes.
Are you able to give us a condition on the victim?
The report from Vanderbilt this morning is that Mr. Kraft is in critical condition. Mrs. Kraft is now in stable condition. Okay, thank you all.